Hello, and welcome to Caffeine Entertainment. And this is another GMX hot take video. In today's show, we are going to talk a little bit about the shuttering of Firewalk Studios and the lack of creativity in modern games. And with me, as always, is my good buddy Finn Tintin. How you doing, Finn?
Doing well. How are you?
Awesome. I'm awesome. It's getting late. I'm a little bit tired. I'm not gonna lie, but it is what it is.
Two
Other than that, I'm
hours for me,
awesome.
dude.
A lot later for you, yeah, 2 hours ahead. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to just chatting a little bit about this. I think some of it's probably not too surprising when you look at how Concord did overall to see it get shut down. But I'll throw the article up on screen here, and there we go, and there it is. So, yeah, I think this is, it's an older topic, of course, because this happened a while back. But nonetheless, I still think it's a bit of an interesting topic because we have more information about the fact that Sony spent $400 million on purchasing Firewalk Studios, along with the development of the actual game itself, only to have it last 2 weeks and to have to pull it offline. Then there was all the rumors that went on for quite a while, I think a few months or a couple of months or whatever, of rumors that it was going to come back as a free-to-play game. And then they announced instead that they're shutting it down. And I don't know, I thought it might be interesting to talk a little bit about what we think would lead to that type of a decision versus trying to give it another run as a free-to-play and rely a little bit more on the traditional model, or what's become more of a model now. I guess it's not really traditional. Traditional is what they tried, but coming into the more modern model of free-to-play with microtransactions to try and make up that difference. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
I mean, and I think as well, just marrying that to the second topic, because I do think there's some, let's say, crossover, or there's some
Yeah.
themes that I think are interesting to dissect and interact with each other. But again, like we've said this before, you and I both liked the look of Concord when we saw it on the expo or whatever it was a couple of months back. And we, oh, this looks like it's good. Oh no, it's a 5v5 and you have to pay
Yeah,
for it.
another
And
hero shooter. Here we
yeah,
go.
and then we're like, yeah, maybe not, right? And I guess that aligns with the lack of creativity somewhat that came up on the
Yeah.
other topic there, where they say like a collapse of creativity. And one of the things that they mentioned, and I think one of the reasons that it's interesting to talk about these two topics together, and we may have some divergent opinions on this. Well, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But there is a real trend of these big companies buying these smaller studios and then shutting them down. And the lack of creativity surely stems from that a little bit. You get the big, and it's a bit like what you see sometimes with, again, hush words or whatever, but companies like Oracle, they see someone doing something that they find is competitive to what they're doing, they buy it up, they shut it down, and it's not something I
Yeah.
like to see, and it's not something I like.
No.
As the gaming industry becomes obviously more and more big business, and I know not everyone recognizes, especially outside of the gaming industry, what a big business it is these days, bigger than the movie business. So it really, I don't like to see this, like, because part of gaming, you want to see innovation, you want to see creativity. You don't want the big
Yeah.
boys buying up these smaller studios and ultimately shutting them down. Now, would something different had happened if, I think it's Firewalk, if they had done this independently? Personally, I don't think they would have done it the way they did it if they weren't part of Sony. They wouldn't have spent 400 million on one game if they weren't
Yeah.
part of Sony, right?
I think that includes the cost. I have no idea. They didn't break down what Firewalk actually sold for. It
Right.
was just kind of this number that encompassed purchasing the studio, the assets or whatever they had, and then furthering the development of the game to finish it off. So,
I guess
you know,
whatever the ultimate number, fair point, well taken. But whatever the number ultimately is of developing Concord,
Yeah.
You and I have both commented before, like, what a crazy strategy some of these gaming studios do. Like, they put all their eggs in one, maybe two baskets, and if they fail, they're really screwed. We've made that comment before. And I
Yeah.
think as a more independent studio, you'd have to be more risk averse to doing, or not even risk averse, but not put all your eggs in one basket, at least, anyway. And it
Yeah.
aligns a bit with the, again, to my mind anyway, it's one thing that I don't like about Microsoft buying up studios as well, and it does good things about it regarding Game Pass and all that. But obviously, like, there's less competition. Then there's less likelihood of these smaller guys going and doing something truly original, truly creative that will have a more of a from the ground up impact in the gaming industry, because
Yeah.
it's and I guess that's what the Sony guy is talking about as well. No, he wasn't picking out Microsoft, mind you, but he was also, I think, even talking about his own ex home in Sony. The more we see companies like Sony and Microsoft buying up all these other studios, the less likelihood is you see that there's going to be independent thought, right, or divergent thought. Now, hopefully, these Concord people will all go and find jobs elsewhere, and maybe they can be more creative again. But I do think it's a bit like the gaming, or sorry, the movie industry as well, where people are kind of taking the same game and rebranding it, refurbishing it, etc., and bringing it out because they're too scared to do anything truly original because it may fail, right? If it doesn't catch the
Yeah.
right audience.
Yeah. I mean, this was my first thoughts when I saw the gameplay. Oh, geez, it looks a lot like Overwatch. Yay. Oh,
Yeah,
geez, oh, there's some Destiny aspects kind of thrown in there too, maybe. And it just, and then you find out, I think, for me, when I knew it wasn't going to do anything is when I found out they were charging $40 for it.
yeah,
In a world where everything from Warzone to Overwatch is free to play. I mean, including Halo multiplayer, they went free to play. Like everybody's free to play, and then Sony thinks, oh, hey, yeah, let's charge $40.
yeah,
Didn't make any sense to me. And, it launched to less than 1,000 players
yeah.
playing it on Steam, and I think 25,000 copies sold overall. And some of those happened when the rumors were starting to go around. People were buying it on disc because they knew it was going to get shut down, and they wanted to have this disc that no one else would have. I know of a few people that bought multiple copies on disc just because. And then, sure enough, they got pulled from the store shelves, and it makes you wonder. Makes you wonder what Sony was thinking, and it comes down to trying to play in that arena with all the long-term free-to-play hero shooters and all the rest of them, and trying to get a piece of that pie. But I don't think it's an easy pie to get a piece of at
Oh,
this
well,
stage. There's a lot of established games in that arena that are
but
free to play.
it's a bit like Marvel, though. Obviously having a big hit with the Avengers, etc., and then just trying to repeat that movie multiple times with different characters. It
Yeah,
just gets old, right?
it
And
does.
this has been done before, and presumably, I mean, I again, my objective here is not to shit on Concord or Firewatch at all. I feel
Yep,
bad for people who lost their job, and I'm sure it actually
absolutely.
the graphics look good. It looked interesting when we first saw it until we found out what type of game it was. I think you and I were going, like, oh, it's just actually the scene in the
Yeah,
bar, and they were interacting with each other. I said, oh, this could be. I was thinking it looked a bit like Borderlands actually, and I was like, I like
yeah,
Borderlands quite a lot. So not my intention is not to shit on them, but again, why don't they do something more original? And maybe I would far rather see, like, and again, we don't know like the exact numbers, but let's say it was 300 million they spent on the game. I doubt it was, but let's say it was.
yeah,
Like, I would far rather see like 6 or 10 games at 30 million each versus one game at 300 million each. And some of them will take
yeah.
off and some of them won't, but maybe they'll be a bit more willing to do something a little bit different if all their eggs, as I say, aren't in one basket.
Yeah. I mean, the concept of being risk adverse, we've seen that take place a lot this generation within Sony. I mean, how many remasters have they put out?
Yeah,
I think the latest is what, Horizon Zero Dawn, I think, was just remastered, or it's coming out. If it's not out already, it'll be out shortly. And I mean, that game's just not that old,
Yeah.
but they keep going back to that well. And for players that already own it, I guess it's a $10 upgrade. Uh, Great, but was it needed? I mean, it's still a good-looking game, even it's in its original form. There's nothing wrong with it, and it definitely, like, spend that effort on building something new
Yeah.
rather than giving us the same thing over and over again. I mean, Sony's kind of got their, and I guess they tried something new with Concord. They just kind of went about it a very strange way,
Um,
and new to them, but not new to anyone
yeah,
else.
that's I'm going to say, like,
You
it's
know?
kind of new in a way, but really not that new.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think as we see more and more consolidation, I mean, there'll always be independents who come up, and who would have thought that anyone would ever, challenge Google's dominance or Microsoft dominance of the IT industry? And eventually people come along and they do, right? So it's not like it's
yeah.
impossible, but I do think the bigger studios buying the smaller studios and having so much focus on repeating successes of the past inevitably will stifle creativity.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's, that whole scenario of being just risk adverse and afraid to take chances. And I think that's where, when you have indie developers, they don't have those same concerns. They're
Yeah.
taking the risks because they want to make a name for themselves and come up with something that's original and catch on, that's going to catch on. And I know you're a big fan of indie games, more so than I am. I'll admit that right now. What remains of Edith Finch? But
Hey! I knew that was
it's
going to come up at some point in this conversation. But you got to say this, right? Whether you enjoy or whether you didn't, it was
yeah,
very different to most things you
it
would
was
do.
very different. Yes, it was,
You
and
know,
I'll give them kudos for that. That's for sure. Uh,
and those
just
guys, when they created that game, again, whether you like it, it's a bit like when you watch an independent movie, whether you like it or
yeah,
whether you don't like it, they didn't look at, well, what are Activision doing, and let's make a copy of that, or what did we do last year, and let's just make a regurgitated version of that. These guys
yeah,
came up with something truly original. Maybe I missed the mark, and maybe I missed the mark in a lot of people's, but at least it's something different out there, and I would far rather see a little bit of that. I still want to have AAA titles. I still want to see the latest Call of Duty. I still want to see an next God of War, etc. But not everything has to be like that. It would be nice to see some, again, equivalent of a foreign French movie in the middle of watching, the latest John Wick or the latest Mission Impossible. They don't all have to be the same thing, right?
yeah. And I'm with you, man. It's going back to that same well over and over again. Eventually, the well runs dry, and people start to lose interest. Even though, and I'd be happy too. Like, you don't have to spend 5 years and give me 70 hours of gameplay. You don't have to do that. You don't have to spend 300 or 400 or 500 million dollars on a game. I'd way sooner have a nice, 15-hour experience that you spent 50 to 100 million on, if you even need to do that. Uh, Give us these shorter, more original games to play.
And I make the
Take a bit
price.
of a risk.
Make the price reflect that as well. Like,
Exactly.
not everything has to be
Exactly.
$80 or $90, right? Come
Yeah.
up with a
Yeah.
$20 or $30 game, and people
Yeah.
are more willing to take a risk with that as well with their wallet. I mean,
For sure.
you gotta also say though that, I mean, and for me, I do vote my wallet too. I mean, not consistently, but to an extent. Like, I didn't buy any of the remastered versions of, like, Last of Us or whatever, and I probably won't, because I think, I would prefer that Naughty Dog would create something new, like create something.
Yeah.
Give me another Joel. Give me another Ellie story with someone else.
Yeah.
A new Joel, a new Ellie. I don't need to see the same story over and over again. I am enjoying the HBO series, of course, but yeah, like, you've got to vote with your wallet as well a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Don't. It's like, I think Marvel are getting it as well. Like, that people didn't turn up to a lot of their last movies, except for Deadpool and Wolverine. which was different than what the other movies were doing. And the reason was, I think, to an extent, that Ryan Reynolds, in fairness to him, is a bit like, I'll do it if I can do it my way, right? And they
Yeah.
let him do it, and it was successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I am guilty of repurchasing remasters, especially Last of Us One. I've played that game I played it on PS3, PS5, and PC. So I did buy the remaster on PS5. I had the remaster on PS4, but I never played it because I got it kind of during my Destiny phase. We were laughing about that earlier, off
Mike's
screen.
lost years.
Yeah, my lost years when I did nothing but Destiny. That interrupted a lot of games for me because I just lose track of what I was doing, and I'd think, oh, I'll just play some of this and then I'll play Destiny. And the next thing I know, several months had gone by and I don't remember what I was doing in the game, so they end up going by the wayside. But I mean, ultimately, Last of Us 2, I didn't do that. I only bought the one copy. And I don't see any reason why I'd be buying it on PC at this point until maybe it's in the super cheap bin for like $10 or something. I might pick it up there.
But
But
like
uh,
you called it out as well earlier, like it's not Last of Us specifically, but I think it was Horizon Zero Dawn. These games aren't old games. Like Last of
yeah,
Us Two is like what is it, like 3 years old or
uh,
something.
yeah, no, that was ridiculous. It came out right at the end of the PS4 version, like 2020, like what, summer of 2020 or early like June or May or something 2020,
Too
and it's
soon, guys.
like,
Too soon.
yeah, it's just insane, and it's really just kind of a cash grab. I feel like at that point, and it is that risk adverse nature. I think because there's so much money involved. They're trying to squeeze every last penny they can out of each title, and
I'm just thinking
I
about
don't
this
know.
as we're saying it. Like, I would prefer, like, they're probably not just trying to get people to rebuy the game, but they're probably trying to reach out to an audience who didn't buy it 3 years ago, or like
Yeah, I
but,
didn't.
yeah, but like, come up with something original. Then come up with at least some a new version of the game with additional chapters, additional background, or whatever. Don't just
Yeah,
regurgitate. I kind of what I think it's done well. And I've never been a big fan of the original. I know it's huge, but Final Fantasy VII, I did play the remastered or reimagined Final Fantasy VII a little bit. Not really my favorite game, I'll admit, but I will give kudos for them doing it completely differently than they did the original. Look completely different. It wasn't just
yeah,
a souped up version of what they've done before. That I can see, right? There is a reason to do that. And as well, Final Fantasy VII, that must be like 20 years old at this point. I'm not sure what it is.
yeah.
But um but yeah,
See, yeah, like I mean, we talked a bit about like Resident Evil and stuff in that series. Like those remakes are coming years and years and years and years later. Like
yeah,
there's some real value in the upgrades that you're seeing. The game looks completely different. They changed and updated the way you play it. Like it feels like a modern game, and even the stories were changed a little bit here and there. Uh, like it's completely modernized, and that I don't have a problem with.
yeah. I agree with you.
But when you're hitting Last of Us 2 within a few years, it just seems kind of, it's cheesy and ill-advised. Like, I mean, even Sony fans, most of the people I know are like, "What the hell are they doing? Give us something new."
It's a
And
bit like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Yeah, we don't need it.
yeah,
Tobey Maguire was just here. Right. So
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Anyway, anything else you want to say on these? On
no, as
this,
I
I guess
say,
it's one topic, but
I sympathize with the people who lost their jobs. I
yeah,
do think it's a symptom
me
of the
too.
industry. I don't think that those guys. It reminds me a little bit of the what was that studio that they closed down? The Xbox closed down. Who did that Redfall game? It reminds me a little bit about
Arcane
that.
Austin, yeah,
Yeah, just in terms of, I don't think had they not been purchased by the big behemoth, I don't think they would have put all their efforts in one game, and then just been doomed to fail because of that. So
yeah.
I sympathize with you guys, and I guess for anyone who is an independent games company, be careful what you wish for. I mean, I know the founders will love the idea of being bought by Microsoft and getting their millions in the bank, but it will fundamentally change what you are and what you can do, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a word of caution, I guess, that goes out to everyone. So, yeah, I feel bad for everyone that lost their job. It's always tragic to me when people lose their job, especially in a slow economy. I don't know where this studio is located, to be honest. I don't think it mentioned it, or did it mention it? Uh, I don't think it did, but um, either way, it's unfortunate. I think the economies are slow pretty much everywhere. I know in Canada it sucks, and in the U.S. I don't think it's a whole lot better, generally speaking. And I hope they all find jobs soon. I don't have anything else to add to this one, but start taking some risks, small risks. You don't have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars. Spend a third of it, a quarter of it, a fifth of it. Give us a shorter game that's something new and interesting, and you might surprise yourself.
Yeah, short game, new and interesting, just like What Remains
Yeah.
of Edith Finch.
Yeah, not like that, but no, I can totally understand the appeal to some people, and it's just it wasn't for me, but that's okay. Finn, why don't you tell people where they can find you?
You can see it in the legend below, Fin Tin Tin with a one in front or instead of the first I, and then Fin Tin Tin on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox.
And I'm at Mental9R on X. I'm Mental9R on Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, and just about anywhere else you can play games. But on YouTube, I am at Caffeine Entertainment, and that's where you can find us. We're trying to get out more videos more often, and if you stayed with us this long, we greatly appreciate you watching the show. Don't be afraid to hit that like and subscribe button, and leave a comment below and tell us what you think. Why is the industry lacking creativity? Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Mental9R. He's Fin Tin Tin. This is Caffeine Entertainment. And don't forget, it's time to wake up and play some games.